Hi there, Simon from simonwoods.com. Bathed in a golden glow from the wonderful light outside. There's a mixture of sunlight and snow out there. It's a rather strange time of year. The Christmas tree is up in one corner and I have some crisp summer whites. Hey, what can I do? First one I've got, and they're from all over the place. We've got southern France, we've got Portugal, we've got Italy, we've got Spain, so I'd better shut up and get on with them. But I'll tell you what this one is first. It's from Alain Grignon, the ever-enterprising guy. Les Cruz, Colombard, 2010, from Comté Tolosan. If you don't know Comté Tolosan, it's basically, it covers all, it's like one of those, it used to be a Van de Pay, and now it's just IGP, Comté Tolosan. Covers places like Bergerac, I think it gets down to Cahors, Madiran, so it's Van de Pay, or Van de Pay as was from there. Anyway, Colombard, good Colombard wants to be Sauvignon, bad Colombard wants to be battery acid. Let's see what we've got here. Well, this is probably in the Sauvignon mould. It's got a little bit of the crunchy, ripe, but only just ripe pear, bit of citrus in there, herby zing to it. Smells good. Perfect December wine. Whoa, there's bits of that I like. I like that. I like that zingy fruit. Maybe it's just a little bit on that sharp side, and there's a slight. There's something about it that just is a bit too shrieking. Decent enough. Maybe if I had some shellfish, maybe if that sun that was out there would persist for the next 12 hours. It's not going to. It's going to go down in about 10 minutes. So I better hurry up with the video. It's okay. Next wine. We are on the other side of France here, I think we are, La Poule Blanche, actually no, it says Vin de France, blended by Sacha Lichine, who he's based down at, oh god, what's he called, where he's in Chateau d'Esclans, or d'Esclans, down in Provence, but he also does a range of blended wines. This is a New World style of blended varietals, 60% Chardonnay, 20 Sauvignon, 20 Viognier, and it's called La Poule Blanche 2010. Give it a whirl. Not quite sure what they mean by the New World style blend. If there is a New World style here, maybe it's to do with blending 3 different grapes like that. It seems to have a southern, a definite European structure to it with acidity. I think they've maybe done a little bit too much skin contact. I'm getting a bit of gluiness. It tends to dominate the wine. And in terms of fruit flavours, maybe it's a little bit of that peachy Chardonnay and that overripe peachy Viognier coming through, and a bit of Sauvignon herbiness, but smells like it's going to be okay rather than great. Don't think they needed the Viognier in there. It's adding just a bit too much fatness and richness. A bit more Sauvignon and it'd be a bit more fresh and lively. It's an okay blend. It's not going to make me want to cross the road and buy another bottle. Other side of France now, other side of southern France, we're in La Clappe, and this is Chateau d'Angles, La Clappe Classique 2009, Bourg Blanc, Grenache Blanc, I presume, right? It could be Grenache Gris, Grenache Roussanne, from a guy called Eric Fabre, who used to make wine at Lafite. In the 80s, I think, and left early 90s, something like that. Anyway, he's been down in the Languedoc for the last few years, and he makes some really nice reds. And let's see what his white's like. Well, there's like a fat, waxy, honeyed character here. It smells like it's going to have a bit of freshness, but it's mostly going to be about juiciness, roundness and ripeness. And it's funny, the one before said a New World style. If there's a style here, it almost reminds me of an ever so slightly old-fashioned Australian Chardonnay in that honeyed, honeysuckle, weighty style. Let's give it a whirl and see what it's like. Well, it's a rich style. I notice wood there. I notice wood framing it in. And it's not that toasty edge of oak, it's almost a smoky oak environment in which this really floral, peachy, rich fruit character comes through. Again, getting a little touch of pear. If I have a problem with it, it doesn't seem to know whether it wants to be on the crisp side, in which case maybe they should need it a little bit more Bourg Blanc, or one of those really rounded, fleshy styles that places like La Sula and Matassa make. It's a very different terroir here. It's La Clappe's like a big rock that pokes out into the sea, and so there is something of that soil character, or the lack of soil character. There is a stoniness about it, but yeah, it doesn't quite feel like it's quite sure what it wants to be. It's good, but I think that there's a better wine to be made there. Let's see whether we've got a better wine with the next one. Mio Passo, Fiano, from Sicily. And this range, Mio Passo, is a range that I think has been developed by some people in the UK, looking at various places around Italy and thinking, right, okay, let's see if we can produce a decent wine there, shove it under the same label, make Italy easier for normal people to understand, because Italy can be rather confusing. Is there a vintage on here? I can't see something. Oh well, maybe non-vintage, maybe 2010, but I will see if I can find out. It's like a candied fruit character here. If crystallised oranges, there's a touch of a touch of really ripe plum, and yes, this vanilla-like softness. Grape it reminds me of is if you go over to Spain and to Rueda, you get Verdejo there, and sometimes Fiano can be quite precise and poised. This feels like a fleshier style, maybe not quite as fine as some of the Fiano that you get, but feels like it's going to be quite a nice, rich, weighty wine. Well, it's got this nice honeyed apple type of freshness to start with. Then, if I have a problem with it, it's maybe a little too flabby. Flabby maybe is a bit harsh, but when I think of my favourite Fianos, there's a poise and a minerally backbone about them. Here, you've got similar flavours, but they lack something to hold them together and to give them that driving structure. It's okay, and I probably prefer it to the Chateau d'Angles, but not great. Good, but not great. Next two wines. We're in Portugal now, so we've gone to France, Italy, Portugal, and two wines from Dão, D-A-O, with a, what's it called, a tilde on the A, and it's halfway, if you want to pronounce it, it's halfway between Dão and Dung. This is from Sograp, and it's their Duque de Viseur Cavallés. My pronunciation is terrible, and 2010 vintage. I'm not sure what the grapes are in here, but typically Dão will be made from I think is it mostly Encruzado with other grapes like Cercial and Malvasia in there. Not sure what the blend is here. Anyway, let's give it a whirl. Now this smells soft and nutty. It's funny, it doesn't smell like it's going to be one of those, it doesn't smell like it's got a lot of freshness to it, but it feels like it's got a lot of power and punch. And so I almost wish that there was a little bit more freshness and bite and structure to it. It feels like it's going to be soft and friendly. And that's what it is, soft, friendly. Disturbing thing, there's a slightly, what I call dry cardboardy, you know, cardboard dust if you get inside of shoe boxes, and sometimes you get dustiness off the cardboard there. A little bit of a character like that. Fruit flavours, bit of apple, vague citrus there. But the apple, it's that very ripe, or you know when golden delicious go almost that slightly woolly edge, that type of thing. Miss a bit of zing and freshness there. I'm not a huge fan of that, I have to say. Another Dão, same vintage, Giulia Kemper, and anything I can tell you about this? Encruzado and Malvasia Fina. Now this smells like a more serious proposition. It's got what I call the benevolent spent match, slightly sulphury edge of a wine that's been shoved in a barrel and not really been left, to do its own thing. A bit of that spent match reduction, if you want to be a bit more precise, and it's adding an interesting character. So you've got similar apple-y characters to apple and citrus that were in the Sograp one, but here there's a little bit more life, polish, and it feels like it feels like it's maybe got a bit more oak aging, but feels like it's got a bit more freshness to it as well. Pretty classy wine, that. What's nice about it? Yes, it's got that spent match reduction character that's giving this toastiness, this nuttiness. And then the fruit behind, it's got the apple. It feels like it's slightly cooked apple, and a bit of the honey there in the background. It's juicy, it's rich. It doesn't feel like it's a wine that I want to keep for any length of time, but certainly it's far more personality than the Sograp one, and far more length, richness. But the weird thing is, it's richer, but it also finishes fresher. Nice wine. Certainly best so far. But let's see whether it can be beaten by Nerola. This is Torres in Spain, Catalonia, and it's their organic project. grapes here. I think it's, I can't remember, it's something like Sorello, which is one of the Cava grapes, with a bit of Grenache Blanc in there. Well, this feels like a really full, fleshy, maybe not all that structured wine. It's got this, again, similar type of flavour to I was getting in the Saugrap and in the Angles. This rounded, rich, peachy nuttiness, but without maybe the structure that's going to hold it together and keep it crisp and stop it going flabby. But I better taste it first before I eat. And reserve judgment until then. Rich, weighty, does have a bit of freshness in there, and fruit-wise, it's like apple and pear, orchard fruit as some people call it, and some of the fruit has been slightly cooked, not cooked to a mush, but just cooked so it's softened slightly around the edges. Touch of vanilla in there. I do get a sense of something of the soil coming through. There's this like undercurrent of pebbly minerality, but even so, I just wish that they'd had a little bit more, a little bit more spine, a little bit more backbone. You almost like want to take some of the Colombard and bung it in there just to give it a little bit more strictness and sternness, because that's how I like my wines, strict and stern. But the one I'm going to be drinking tonight is Julia Kemper Dow. That's for me the class act here. An interesting set of wines, even if they weren't great. But hey, see you soon.